Oops. Sonny is here. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing good, Jeffrey. How are you?
I'm good, my man. So good to see you. So good to see you. Just awaiting Patrick J.
All right. Can you hear me okay?
Is technically challenged. Yes, I can hear you great, my friend. Let me get Pat in the mix.
All right.
We're doing it live, so there's always these little hiccups, so don't sweat it. First world problems.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah. Yes. How have you been, though? You been doing all right?
Yeah, man. Pretty busy. A lot of trainings picking up quite a bit, and working on a number of projects. So, yeah.
I can only imagine. I can only imagine why training's been picking up.
Yeah, there's objective reasons for that, obviously.
Yeah. Well, and just for people who've been asking, where the fuck are we? Where we been? I mean, we've still been posting, not as frequently, and especially not necessarily on YouTube, because for obvious reasons, because YouTube is YouTube. But
Yeah.
we're setting up a podcast network. It's called That Podcast Network. Where if you go to our YouTube page, which was the Conspiracy Farm page, you will now find it's called That Podcast Network, where all of our works are under there. It's the Conspiracy Farm. It's Everything Combat. It's my show. It's me speaking to you, and we're going to start growing those shows, finding up and coming shows which we feel might be able to be some cool shit coming down the line and help maybe benefit from a little bit of our platform. We've carved out a little bit of a nice network here, at fan base, millions of listeners, over 100 countries, and we have Pat Militich joining the stream here. But yeah, for everyone who's been wondering where we are, that's where you can find most of our stuff now. It's under That Podcast Network. Our RSS stream on Spotify, iTunes, all of that stuff is going to be under that moniker now. The Conspiracy Farm is going to be a part of it. Patrick, how you doing, my friend?
I'm good. I'm going outside because I think I might have better reception, and I'm going to plug in out here. Apologies for the technical difficulties. I moved into a house built in the 1890s, so we're trying to update it. So, here I am, buddy.
It is what it is, man. First world problems. But yeah, people who wondered where we've been, we haven't really gone anywhere. We're just working, living our lives, trying to prioritize in this madness. And, our guest tonight is someone who we've talked to so many times.
I love Sonny Puzikas.
I love this brother like midnight loves the moon. Again, when we've had him on, man, a while ago, just kind of picking his brain on how he became who he is. We had him on an episode talking about the Beslan massacre, specifically about that. And kind of most recently, when all this kicked off, we were kind of hypothesizing and theorizing on where this could possibly go. And
his background is important. His background is very important in today's society. What's going on? I think it's very important to divulge that, right?
Well, former Russian Spetsnaz. The guy is super tried and true. If you listen to him on other episodes, he's just a badass motherfucker who's a fan of freedom. Oddly enough, having fled from the madness that he fled from. And again, we've been talking about the possibility of where these things could go. And if people who are fans of the show, you've heard our episode with G. Edward Griffin talking about Yuri Bezmenov. We've heard about Agenda 21. Sonny, welcome to the show once again, my friend. And I strongly suggest you guys check out some of his last several posts around Election Day. Was very,
intense
very
shit, man.
Intense shit. And his lives are very intense shit. Sonny, welcome. Obviously, brother, love you, man. Glad you've taken the time to come chat with us. Assuming things are what the media is going to say, is that we now have a President Biden, Kamala Harris administration. Knowing all the context of what we talked about, and ladies and gentlemen, go watch the other shows to catch up, if you will. If that's the case, what the fuck have we done?
Well, what we have done is we postponed for a very short time the inevitable, but at the same time, we made that inevitable a lot closer to where it shouldn't go, which is genocidal. And it's sad, but I still don't believe, I still don't think that it's gonna end up with media's push narrative of President-elect Biden.
Thank you.
But if it does,
before you go on, Sonny, let me just ask you, because we've teased that term, we've talked about it. I've posted on my Facebook timeline, "Genocide Worse Than War," the movie. Whether it's Pol Pot, whether it's Srebrenica in the Balkan Wars, whether it's Mao, whether it's Stalin. When you start talking about genocide, that doesn't happen overnight. Why do you use that particular term, genocide? What do you see to make that assessment?
In my opinion, Jeff, is that over the past number of years, and especially within the past, let's just say 12 months, and even more so accelerated in the past 6 months, America, I mean, you can say American society is closer to becoming what I sometimes refer to as a sectarian society. And what I mean by sectarian, it's not by skin color, by our backgrounds, whether we Irish American, Italian American, or whatnot. This is much more dangerous because it's strictly by drawn ideological lines.
Yeah.
In the past 12 months, we've seen fucking families being split apart because of ideology. Fathers don't talk to kids. Husbands, don't talk to their spouses. I haven't seen this. I've seen sectarian violence, in its worst, but I haven't seen to where people of the same blood in the same household would become pretty much a fucking cutthroat mentality strictly because of ideological differences.
Right.
And,
that's so great. Yeah, that's so crazy.
Trying to talk now to some people on the other side, that people that I've been friends with for years, people that I've done projects with, movie people and so forth. It's pretty much after they started believing that Biden is president-elect, they're kind of like openly laughing. They go like, "Hey, what's up with those liberal tears?" It's almost like they're saying, "We're gonna be watching you being slaughtered." And I just kind of smile, and I don't think they know where they're going. I don't think they have a slightest clue what it looks like and what it can become.
Right.
But I think we are at that irreversible edge of us becoming sectarian society along the ideological lines.
Are we? And that's
fucked up.
And that's what we've talked about, the certain kind of inevitability of whatever comes out of this. Who knows? But the war, the civil war, if you will, the unrest is almost inevitable. And now we hear people.
Jeff, let's not be soft. It's not almost inevitable. At this point, I will go on the brink and say it's absolutely 100% inevitable.
Yeah. Because here's my belief, Sonny, and you tell me what you think. I think that inevitably the court is going to overturn this. It was absolutely a corrupted election. They're going to push it to Congress. Congress is going to vote. Trump will be put back in and reinstated. And then the proxy armies of Black Lives Matter and Antifa will be unleashed. And then the chaos starts. Now, the one thing that gave me, and I said this earlier to Jeff, that gave me some hope is that Trump fired Esper, his defense secretary, in knowing that he's going to have to deploy the Marines, the United States Marines, on the streets of the United States. And it's going to have to be, they're going to have to butcher people. They're going to have to kill people. And that's what we're headed for. I mean, is that fairly accurate in your mind?
I'm really not familiar with the new defense secretary, besides knowing his background as far as his service and his specialty. Right. I don't know much about his ideological stance and all that. I see this as a feasible possibility if Donald Trump is, so to speak, as you said, reinstated, which I think there's nothing really to reinstate here. I think election wise, this was as fucking banana republic as it can get.
Absolutely.
You know, a lot of people started posting. You go like, so if this election was rigged, how come all the Senate and Congress, things didn't shift towards the left? Actually, the right won the seats.
Well, you don't want to make it that
Congress
obvious, right? Besides the 188,000 votes that suddenly clicked in at 3 a.m.
Yeah, it's strange things happen like that. It's American democracy, I suppose. But the thing about this is that while some people on the right may be celebrating the fact that U.S. military may be deployed to the streets, I really don't see the cause to celebrate, because we're going to live with that for decades to come.
Well, and that's what I've said, Sonny, all summer, for years, we've heard about UN on the streets, martial law on the streets. We're like, fuck that. That's not cool. We're never going to accept that. But they create a certain condition that, ordo ab chaos, the Latin term of creating the order of the chaos. They created the Hegelian dialectic of problem, reaction, solution. We've been watching all summer these guys trick off, burn shit down. These governors, these mayors, they're not doing shit. Police are
giving
standing down
orders to law enforcement.
If they do get arrested, they're released. Is this not, as we were talking earlier on another show, I don't want fucking federal troops or military on the streets, but have they created a situation where sound-minded, normal individuals like you and I are like, somebody do fucking something? Because there's no way, and I think this is a part of the larger psychological operation, in my own opinion. It's been allowed to go like this, so we ask for some measure of troops on the ground. And it's not, and I think that creates a slippery slope then of a police state that we don't even...
If Trump is reinstated or rightfully stays as a president-elect, I think the issue is going to be this. He's going to have to make one of the two very shitty choices. One of them is let us handle what's going to start happening on the streets. Us meaning
very possible, yes.
Yeah.
And that, my friend, is going to take us into genocide of epic proportions. Proportions. I'm talking for generations to be remembered, and people will seek revenge. People will seek to even the score. His other choice is the one that you mentioned, Jeff, and I hate the thought of it, of U.S. military on the streets, possibly for months to come. Yeah. But if he doesn't do that, the sectarianism will become almost genetic fucking level for generations to come.
Yeah. Well,
so he's going to be left with no choices. Pile of shit or pile of diarrhea. Which one you want?
Sonny, in our last conversation, though, here's the important part, is that, we spoke about civil war and we spoke about global war. And you were very clear to say that America can survive and come back from civil war, but the world does not come back from global war, right? So, and I agree with you on that stance. So, look, I think there's over 3 million veterans who are ready to go to work if we have to. Look, I'm just a dumb caveman. I know how to operate a gun. I know the dangerous end and I know the safe end. I know I can shoot okay. And I know that I'm a fighter at heart. I don't want this to come to this. But if it does, I'd prefer civil war over global war, right?
Absolutely. I'm with you on that, because look, if Biden's administration becomes a reality, I'll tell you things that are going to be happening. We're going to be full force back in Syria. We're going to be full force openly, and not in some kind of a small scale, but on the big scale, supporting a new Ukrainian government to resolve their issue with Eastern Ukraine.
Sure.
But that draws us so close to irreversible on the global scale that it's not even funny.
Right. Yeah.
When it doesn't even have to be mutually exclusive, right? We could still have a civil war and a global war. It's not like one, we might have one without the other. We could easily, and that's what people are saying, the racial war, the civil war that we're seeing is going to merge into a larger class warfare. And, as someone who's, very familiar with communism and socialism, what are your thoughts again? If, Joe Biden.
Think, you know what? I think actually the class warfare is at this point has been excluded as a manifestation of what's going on. Class warfare for right now is basically it's just a fucking demagoguery. It's just people talking shit.
Yeah.
We have very, very quickly within few months moved across the divide of class warfare, across all that into sectarian warfare.
Yeah.
This is the latest, the darkest stage that you can have of civil unrest, civil warfare.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah. I think we're going to move into I don't think we move into a global war more than likely. I think that, they, as Jeff has said many times, they don't want to destroy their own infrastructure, right? Because Chinese own America in many, many areas, many facets, right? Food production, energy production, and likewise, Americans own infrastructure in other areas. What we move into is a global war between, the elites and the common man. That's what we move into.
Yeah, and, if you look at this, here's the funny thing. In the last few days, and to me, it's very interesting to watch this transformation. Remember, for how long, Pat and Jeff, we've been talking about, the Agenda 2030,
right,
stuff
many years.
We were being laughed at as a conspiracy theorist, as the crazy right wing, up someone's ass,
Yep.
Off the kilt, imaginary, whatever, we imagining things. Now all of a sudden, with a very sudden escape of millions of people from Fuckbook and Instagram and going into other platforms like Parler and MeWe and all that stuff, right? All those videos resurfaced where Schwab, where Trudeau, where Macron, where Merkel are openly talking, using the word of global reset, using the word of Agenda 2030, using the word of universal income, using all this shit that we were accused of being crazy-ass conspiracy theorists for bringing up to the surface. Now it's open knowledge, but here's the funny thing. It's not only open knowledge, probably good 50 million people in this country nodding their head and they're going, yeah, what's wrong with Agenda 2030? What's wrong with all this shit that they're talking about?
Yeah. What's wrong with sustainable development?
Much higher percentage than in Russia back in 1917, as far as the populace goes, that supported a Marxist revolution. This is where we stand. This is why I'm saying this is beyond class warfare. This is becoming a fucking ideological sectarianism.
Well, in having individuals like G. Edward Griffin on and talking about Yuri Bezmenov, who I know you're familiar with, and I honestly recently became more familiar with the level of the infiltration that's been going on over so many years. What are your thoughts on this being potentially a culmination of that kind of
Willie, inside.
What's Patrick? Mute your
Sorry,
microphone,
buddy. I'm
please.
taking care of my dog out in my backyard,
That's right.
buddy.
Just mute your mic if you don't mind.
I don't think I can.
Just the level of infiltration we're seeing coming to almost a crescendo right now with, Biden's clear ties with the CCP and so many other things. What are your thoughts on, this plan that they've been planning for so long coming to possibly a summit, if this is even the summit?
You know what? I think that the plan, whatever infiltration happened in the 50s, specifically into Western and also to include American academia, it kind of took a life of its own. While it was infiltrated through the classic Marxism of the 50s of Soviet Union, it became its own animal, dude. And I think it's actually a much more dangerous animal than the classic Marxism, because now this is neo-Marxism. This is postmodernism. This is the shit that Edward Griffin is talking about, that this became a whole new freaking monster. You know what I mean? And this academia, what they have developed now over the decades in American universities and all that shit, You talking, we laugh about it, we joke, we go like, ah, yeah, look at these skinny jeans wearing little bitch asses with their purple hair and all that stuff. But there's freaking tens of millions of them. Tens of millions of ideologically, absolutely indoctrinated purists of neo-Marxism. They don't just say it because it's popular. Fuck capitalism, down with the riches, and all that stuff. They actually, like, honestly believe that shit.
Well, and I've said this on the show before. When I was in college, I met Bill Ayers, who was one of the heads of the Weather Underground, and it was when he was saying like their plans and what they were doing. And inside, I'm like young and pretty fucking stupid. I'm like, yeah, you're gonna take over the U.S. with communism, just internally laughing my ass off. But it was interesting to hear how he was talking about, kind of being provocateur and protest, kicking people on the legs, getting them people to get radical. But I mean, and it's honestly, as long as I've been doing this show and as much as I've been kind of a buff in this scene, I'm just now realizing over the last couple 2 to 3 years, your Yuri Bezmenovs, the understanding of Prairie Fire, going into things, Manning Johnson, especially for black folks, man, peep out Manning fucking Johnson, understand how this infiltration, or Thomas Sorrell or Sowell. I mean, this infiltration has been going on.
Thomas Sowell.
It's been going on for a very, very long time. And like we've been saying earlier, we were on a show. It's like our view of the world is so ADD, just moment to moment. We don't realize these motherfuckers plan this shit out decades in advance, man. This is chess, not checkers.
Yep.
And that's the thing. I'm glad you mentioned chess versus checkers. Chess is you can say it's a national pastime in Russia. And when you look at Russia per se, and even Soviet Union in its later years, they stopped playing the game trying to change America. I don't think they even knew to what degree the early infiltration has grown to be its own living, breathing fucking apparatus within American society. I don't think they realized, and I think at the latest stages of Soviet Union, especially after Soviet Union broke up and it became independent Russia, they don't give a shit. They don't care. I think they're just watching in amazement what's going on now and going like, holy shit, this is scarier than 1917 in Soviet Union. This is much more severe, and people
that's a bold fucking statement, bro. I know you know what you're saying, but that's a bold statement.
I mean it, Jeffrey. I'm looking at this stuff and I made peace with myself. If this becomes what I think inevitably is coming, I'm okay to die in this fight, brother. I'm okay with this. Because if this becomes what they trying to achieve, I don't think they even realize what it's going to become. It's almost like they blindly fucking shaping the statue without knowing what it's going to
the monster they're creating, right?
And that's what I wonder oftentimes, man. And we've been saying it for years during like the shootings and the Second Amendment stuff. And I've even seen it beyond that. They've been weaponizing our kids. I have a friend that I, work with, 22 years old. He's like, man, I'm in love. I'm fucking pussy whipped. And my girl, she's talking to me about fucking communism and how capitalism is and shit. It's like, do these guys really understand, show me when it's worked the fuck out.
They're about to find out, bro. They're about to find out through warfare.
And that's what I'm wondering. Why? I mean, how is this taking hold? If anybody's paying even halfway attention, show me when it's worked out. Did it work out for Mao or fucking Pol Pot or Stalin or
how it's worked out in China so far?
Well, how is this so attractive to young people?
I think that this
Why?
New generation of neo-Marxists, they believe that they have some kind of evolving solution to make this into a workable outcome.
I think they feel important, Sonny. I think they feel important.
It's not important. I think they are so hungry for control and power that I think this is where the biggest danger lays, because it's the control, it's the power, is the empowerment that people like that feel when they have control. And if folks think that this is going to be some long-lasting, very soft transition into more integrated, accepting, and everything else, this utopian fucking society, I have news for you. It may start slowly, but that slow will not continue for more than a year. Then it's going to be like a fucking free fall driven by gravity into darkness that people cannot even fucking fathom.
Yeah, bro. Yeah. Mandatory everything, right?
Mandatory everything. And it's not just mandatory. You know what I mean? We already seen in the past 4 years, slow introduction and, more importantly, not introduction, but acceptance of probably 30% of American population. Think about that. American population that swears by First Amendment, we accepted the bullshit of hate speech.
Yep.
We accepted 30%, at least 30% of American society accepts hate speech, thus limiting what you can or cannot say.
Or shit like free speech zones.
Once you accept 2 paragraphs of fucking anything that you declare hate speech, you right there in 1920.
Yeah.
You're right there in 1920 because you look at the fucking red flag wrong way and you're going to gulags, motherfucker.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got the Canadian government. I just saw a speech by Justin Trudeau.
Yeah, that's
announcing
that speech is from 7 months ago.
Yes, it is. And he's announcing, basically isolation camps and mandatory this, mandatory that, a global reset. And look, I sent that to my wife, who's Canadian, and she forwarded it to all of her people. I said, "You better get your mother out of Canada, bro." Or to my wife,
bro,
Pat,
not bro.
Pat,
my daughter calls me bro too. Don't worry.
I'm gonna send you through email, Pat. I'm gonna send you through email a actual document from meeting within the Canadian ruling circles that have been forwarded by very.
Dude, they're forming gulags.
They are, and they have preset stages with pretty much exact dates of when things will be kicked in.
Well, yes, and I even hear
Trudeau needs to be hung, bro. Trudeau needs to be hung publicly.
Yep,
I've heard there's CCP tanks or military up there already. I don't know anymore. All this information we get inundated with, you never know the veracity of it. But
and in Mexico potentially.
Yes, on the southern border.
I don't have like any hard proof of that, but I have an actual document that I was sent by very, very affluent people in Canada that looking to come over here and train and learn and leave that shit. And they have enough money to have those connections to receive that information. Kind of people that have their own islands and private jets, that kind of stuff. And
our Canadian, we pray for our Canadian friends. I know that.
Yeah, we sure do. But here's the thing,
because they better suck it up, man.
We're not that far behind, brother.
I know that. But here's the thing. Look, I want your analysis on this because you don't get the vaccine. They take away your banking rights or your ability to go to concerts or whatever it is, right? Electronic rights, this and that. But we still have our guns. How do we change this? How do we do this? How do we do that? At some point, people are going to become violent, right? There's just no doubt about it, right? So who do we go after first? Do we clean out the media? Do we, do?
No, I think media. Here's the
because the media is the narrative, so we have to change the narrative, bro.
Narrative has already been. People that matter,
But if you take over the media and suddenly start broadcasting a new message, you can change minds.
Done their job. They indoctrinated people. Now it's just repeat to dumb down the ones that are gonna be scared and sitting on the fence regardless of what's happening.
Right.
That's it. Media, as far as I'm concerned, once we're done with everything, they should be the last ones, and it should be live on the live national television.
Yeah, right. But imagine this show, Sonny. Imagine this show with you, I, and Jeff on NBC or CBS or ABC in the morning, broadcast, waking people up.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there is a objective reason for that to happen at some point. But
Sure.
the thing about it is this. This is where a lot of folks are wrong, because they go like, oh, look, man, American law enforcement, federal agents and all that stuff, they swore the oath to protect the Constitution. You're talking about the same guys that were going and arresting people for not wearing masks and opening gyms?
Sure.
Because we were told that no cop would do that and enforce those bullshit things, right? Yet thousands of them did. Sometimes the whole fucking departments.
Right.
So what's up? Here's the
thing. Yeah. When their retirement plan, their retirement plans are at risk, of course they're going to.
Well, you know the saying, you know what's the most important job of the government employee? To keep a government job.
Yeah.
100%.
Bingo.
Government's job is to expand and grow itself.
It's endless amount of money from us.
Sure.
That's it. That's their most important job. Now, are many of them that are conscientious constitutionalists and all that stuff? Yes. But even those guys, they're going to have some very hard choices to make. Very hard choices to make, because they're going to have to betray their families' need to be fed, provided for, and so forth, to be moral, to be ethical, to live by U.S. Constitution in the country that they have sworn to protect against all enemies, foreign and domestic. But when that domestic enemy is the one that writes your fucking check and insurance for your sick kid and so forth, guess what? You do have a hard choice to make. We can pontificate about fucking morality and all that stuff all we want, but at this point it becomes very much human individual choice.
Right.
You know, and the thing that I talked about the society becoming this primal freaking sectarian. That sectarianism is already within law enforcement. They have a separate sectarian, portions of law enforcement, that one of them is pretty much going like, I don't give a shit about anything else. I'm going to keep my job and doing what I'm told to do. And they will.
Right.
And
we've seen that. Yeah, we've seen that. And it's crazy because, again, I really kind of familiarized myself with the whole notion of the machinations of the Bolshevik Revolution, releasing prisoners, removing the police. And it was just like so stark to me, because around the same time I was reading Yuri Bezmenov and talking to G. Edward Griffin. I'm like, holy fuck, man, like we are lockstep in this. And then, like I said in the beginning, any notion of Joe Biden becoming president, I mean, I know they're kind of two sides of the same coin, and they're kind of frontmen for the larger, whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to,
the cabal,
the cabal, yeah, whatever you want to call it. Where do you see, obviously we're all just kind of prognosticate or attempt to prognosticate. Where are we going here in the next several years, 4 to 5? I remember we talked before. You were saying, we have a little bit more time than we were thinking, more dire short term. But what are you thinking now as far as if Biden is in? Actually, either way, because if Trump comes in, they're going to lose their fucking shit, and we're talking about pretty much kinetic civil war sooner than later.
If Trump comes in, come January, we're going to be in the kinetic warfare of large scale. It's as simple as that. If Biden comes in, I think the true resistance, if you want to call it that, will start within 6 months when they're going to start implementing their policies. So regardless how you look at it, we may have a month and a half, or we may have 6, 7, 8 months.
Right. It's almost like, are you being executed next weekend, or did you get a stay of execution from the governor? It almost seems that way.
And I think that's, the thing with why I prefer, not just because of ideological beliefs and all that stuff, and, lesser of two evils and all that stuff, but whatever you want to say, why I prefer that this plays out with Trump staying as a president is that their reaction of the other side is going to be more feral, emotional reaction.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I think there's no doubt. There's no doubt that Trump will be reinstated, and then the proxy armies will be released.
Yeah. And the thing that people don't understand, that it's yeah, they do have certain amount of organization. They have this certain structure within Antifa and the Black Bloc and all that stuff. But a lot of those people within the front lines, so to speak, are not per se trained, controllable, and objectively thinking long-term fighters.
Yeah.
They're gonna bust out throwing everything they know how to throw in the short term. It's gonna be nasty, but it's gonna be a relatively short term. Then you're gonna have a simmering stage. You know what I mean? Where the more experienced, more ideologically pure, and more organized groups will come out and start doing shit. But it's gonna be more of a simmering, more of a Northern Ireland, times 20. But it's still not open, all out, fucking burning the city.
That's okay. So we were asked, everyone's throwing around that term civil war, etc. What do you, you kind of answered a little bit, but when we were talking to somebody earlier, I don't look at it as clearly, it's not as symmetrical like we saw in the Civil War, Fredericksburg, Gettysburg, lines against lines. I think you're going to see more regional guerrilla warfare, but that doesn't negate the fact that it's still a civil war taking place. It's just manifesting in a different way than we were traditionally used to seeing it.
People will be killed in great numbers strictly based on their ideology or even assumption of their ideology. It's as simple as that. And that, my friend, is sectarian genocide.
Yep.
It's
people
just
better
insane.
arm up, be ready to rock and roll.
Ready here, buddy.
Yeah, buddy. I know you are. I'm ready too.
Well, Sonny, I don't want to keep you too much longer. I didn't want to beat the horse to death, but I definitely wanted to just hear your perspective because, especially after the election, I always pay attention to your lives and your posts, but after the election, and again, as I've gotten more understanding of this level of kind of radical left wing, if not, communist infiltration, I'm asking myself, like, fuck, man, I know the media is playing a huge role in constructing this narrative that's complete horseshit, but at the end of the day, this last several decades prove what the fuck they really are trying to do, whether it's the universities, our family. It's a little bit of everywhere. Our military even, which I really had no fucking clue of. So I really wanted to get your perspective on what we could look forward to. And when I say look forward to, not anticipatory, but what's next. So I definitely appreciate your perspective. Anybody in the chat, you guys got any questions, anything when you throw out to Sonny? Pat, you obviously got any questions for our boy here before we let him slide?
Well, look, that's probably more private than anything else. But we got to sit here. I have faith. That
you're getting a soft spot, bro. You're breaking up like a champ.
Yeah, the audio is breaking up.
All right.
He's in his farmhouse now. He's out in the sticks.
I'll sign out.
I guess he's dipping out.
I'm good.
Well, we're about ready to head out anyway. But yeah, it's always a pleasure to have you on, Sonny. Definitely want to check back with you very soon because a couple months, as soon as if Biden gets inaugurated and this is actually the kind of the administration we're going to live under, I don't know if this is going to be one of those things where they just go back to being globalists and BLM and Antifa just become useful idiots and lined up on the wall, like Yuri Bezman have said. I saw that one of the heads of, I think it was BLM, she's demanding a meeting with Kamala and Joe. What's my place in the next election? And, I don't know if they're going to have a rude awakening because I'm sure it's going to be like, well, we're done with you. You served your purpose type shit. What do you see going down?
I don't know. I think that while what we refer to as the globalist agenda, which they're gonna milk, if Biden administration becomes reality, they absolutely gonna use the COVID. They're gonna milk it to the fucking bottom.
Oh yeah,
gonna milk it to the bottom because this is their vehicle to bring in the shutting down and closing down number of businesses, under the disguise of stimulus checks, to softly start introducing universal income. And that's the reset. And after that, it's pretty simple. They're going to start talking soft talk of implementing, common sense gun control. Whether it's going to be real or if it's going to be orchestrated, there's going to be some kind of event that's going to be put under the umbrella of right-wing, white supremacy, resistance, reactionary, alt-right, fascist action. And they're going to put it out to their fucking media as this is the proof why we need the common sense gun control. And they're going to try to implement that. And I think that's going to be the red line.
Well, and then with the red flag laws of what you post online get you in trouble. I got a question here from Freya Valentina. She wants to know, in your mind, obviously you're not Vladimir Putin, but what do you see as Russia's plans in this, or their next move of embracing? From your perspective, do you think they would rather have Trump, Biden? What do you think their plan is? And obviously they're big chess players too. How do you see the things?
They absolutely in Russia, it's unequivocal. Within the circles of serious people, and I'm talking people in intelligence, military, business circles, and I would assume, obviously, I'm not insider by any means of the inner circles at the highest level where Vladimir sits. Trump is the preference because of his stance against the agenda, against globalism. If America falls into globalist, that whole 2030 agenda thing, Russia is the only thing that's standing against it. And it's going to be very hard for them to stand.
Interesting. Yeah, all those that whole Eurasian area. I don't know who's on whose team. I mean, I hate to bring up the Izzies, the Israelis, the Russians, the Chinese. It just seems like everyone's kind of flipping sides, and with this whole fourth industrial revolution,
Russia and China. It's nothing else but the policies of NATO and previous American administrations that put Russia into the hands of China as far as partnering up and becoming closer. Putin explained very, very clearly that his preference was close partnership with US of fucking A. But our policies through Syria, through Ukraine, through other places, Georgia, all that stuff, we pushed Russia away from something that could have been probably quite a decisive fuck you to the whole agenda. We pushed them away from it. And it's sad. But at this point in Russia, I can guarantee you in the highest circles, they are quite worried watching what's going on. A lot of people will say Russians don't give a shit. It doesn't matter. They know that American policies will not change. Not quite so. They do see certain amount of hope with Trump administration. They see very dark future with Biden administration.
Russia does.
Yes.
Interesting. Do you have any thoughts? I mean, because as I see this kind of tech transfer and the Russian-Israeli relationship. Do you have any particular thoughts on that and how this emerges into this next fourth industrial revolution? Because I think, in my personal opinion, I think Israel plays a very crucial role in a lot of these relationships. By deception thou shalt make war.
They have a significant influence, and they are very, very good at pulling strings. That's without a doubt. And a lot of things that we see with certain temporary certain powers getting closer to each other, you have to realize this is not all black and white. The game of politics, there's a lot of gray area.
For sure.
You play for certain short-term gains to advance your goals long-term.
Well, that's what I'm seeing. Like you said, a lot of these peace deals, man, UAE and potentially Iran. You see Israel creating these. It's not even just about Israel, but the One Belt Road project. It seemed like they're changing a lot of the guard over there throughout Eurasia to foreseeing almost this next phase, which is this One Belt. I mean, I'm sure you're familiar with the One Belt One Road policy and how a lot of these alliances are kind of based off of that to some degree.
Yeah, I mean, it's that game is obviously have been played for many years. What it's going to become, really, the two most crucial pieces of that, as far as pieces that they're trying to change are US and Russia. That's the two most crucial pieces, because that's the two biggest powers that are capable to resist it. If they do it, not necessarily in lockstep and all that, but in the big direction, pretty much resisting the whole agenda, they fucked. If they take over and they install Biden and camel to hoe, can I say that?
I love it.
Did I just got myself banned from things?
I'm offended, Sonny Puzikas.
Russia is the only thing standing at that point. And us, American people. And that's not a happy place, but we're going to have to do what we have to do.
It's interesting, man. The grand chessboard, as Zbigniew Brzezinski wrote about so long ago, you know, making sure that the U.S. always has some kind of foothold, some kind of place in Eurasia. They don't want anywhere in that area to expand and blow up, whether it's Iran, and we've seen the war on terror, but now we're looking at China blowing up. But it's just like, for me, it's like, who's on whose side anymore? It seems like everyone is literally flipping sides, and it's really hard to get your grasp on like what's really going on. And then you got your media, you know, controlling fucking narrative throughout the globe. So it's really hard to dissect this. That's why it's so, for me, you know, experience, like when you, or someone like you, or you've seen this lay out. And for me, I'm seeing this play out as some kind of literal, you know, communist socialist kind of insurgency to take over the world, because not just, I guess, Russia, you know, they've been looking at the implosion of the US for a long time, and the level of infiltration has been going on for such a fucking long time. It's just
yeah,
hard to extrapolate all this shit because there's so many moving parts. You know, it's almost like a wicked spy novel, but it's absolutely fucking real what we're dealing with.
it is very real, man. You know, we asked for it. May we live in interesting times, and by God, we live in interesting fucking times.
We absolutely are. Sonny, give us a shout out. Where can we track you down, find out what you're up to? If anyone wants to go on and do some training with you, where could we find out what you're up to, my friend?
Okay, well, my website's still the same, sonnypuzikas.com. I am still present on the commie social media, you know, the Instagram, the Facebook, and all that stuff under Sonny Puzikas. But I'm migrating quickly and forcefully into the realm of Parler and MeWe and ThinkSpot and other platforms that are not controlled, that are not censorship based. So Sonny Puzikas, just about anywhere you go, if you enter that, if I'm on there, my name will probably pop up. But as far as my training events, everything is posted. That's publicly open for public registrations on my website. We're adding quite a few new events. Training is taking off significantly. A lot of people asking for training, a lot. Corporate clientele, groups of people, individuals, rich people, small groups of business owners. It's becoming pretty much, I really starting to have to juggle my calendar quite hard.
Well, it was definitely hard to track you down here a little bit today. And, you know, I definitely appreciate the fact that you're busy. Pat and I are going to have to get down there sometime and do like some full on coverage of that training and hanging out with you, man. It's I can only imagine why people are deciding to get their training shit together. We are living in crazy times, and I appreciate your time so much, as well as your insight. It is so invaluable to me. It's really kind of a novice at this game. I'm kind of bush league, surface level conspiracies, maybe some deep dives here and there, but I've just come to realize the certain level of real infiltration on so many different levels, whether it's the rabbit hole goes deeper than we could ever fucking possibly realize, and nothing is as it seems. So I appreciate you, my friend.
Don't you find funny that, you know, Edward G. Griffith talked about it, 30, 40 years ago? How crazy did that shit sounded back then? But we're actually watching it as if he wrote the fucking script.
Literally, that's exactly what I said. And I've often said, only through historical perspective do we realize, like, holy shit, that's, you know, because we become conspiracy theorists or whatever it is when it hasn't been validated. And, you know, a lot of, not just us, but a lot of people who've talked this shit for a lot of years have been kind of taking victory laps to some degree. And for me, it's not about necessarily being right. I just want us to be informed, dude, because I just don't want us to keep getting clown like Krusty, because the stakes are so fucking high right now, higher than in my personal opinion, they've ever been in my individual life. But Anyway, like I said, everyone, if you've missed us, we are on rockfin.com. We still are on YouTube. We've switched our name to our larger network, that podcast network. And you can find all of our shows, The Conspiracy Farm, It's Me Speaking to You, Everything Combat, and we're going to be adding more shows. So if you've been wondering where we are, I'm sorry, life happens. So if hopefully you guys can appreciate that. And we definitely appreciate your patience. And Sonny, again, man, thank you so much. Keep knocking out those Facebook Lives, because I love sometimes closing my day watching you drive home from work. And hopefully we can link back up with you very soon, my friend.
Sounds good, brother. I appreciate you guys having me.
All right. Sonny Puzikas, big fan of the show. Huge fan of his. Peace and so much love, you guys. Stay tuned. There'll always be more. Peace and love. Thanks, bro.
Thank you, man.